Ambassador Aquidus.
Cabal Coffers, The Tainted Lands, Insidious Dreams. These are just a few of the impactful EDH cards to come out of Magic's 25th expansion, Torment.
But we're not talking about those cards today. Instead, we are talking about the sleepers from the set, the cards that aren't extremely expensive, that have niche and important uses in EDH. The video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to The Day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We're going to discuss Torment and our sleeper picks for Commander from the 25th MTG set. But first, if you like the video by the end of it and you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button down there. It really helps us out.
With just the click of a button, you can support this YouTube channel. And if this is the second video you've ever watched of ours, I implore you must subscribe.
Let's look at these cards.
Now, typically with our Commander Sleeper series, we're going to start out with a common or an uncommon, only if there's one in the set, something that we think is notable that stands out. The thing about Torment, it's a set that's 143 cards, and the crown jewel of the set is an uncommon. Cabal Coffers. We're not talking about that card today because it's about an $80 card if you're getting a near mint copy.
$80 uncommon.
$80 uncommon, but the set is small. There's not a lot of cards that financially are desirable from the set.
No.
So from that perspective, we're talking about cards today that are like $2, $3, less than that.
Yeah, less than that.
The first one we're talking about is Overmaster. It is a rare. For 1 red, the next instant or sorcery spell you play this turn can't be countered by spells or abilities, and then it cantrips. You're drawing a card off of it. EDH, it's something that we talk about a lot. We don't play it a lot, but the understanding is that low CMC, everything to the ground, something that's going to fill your hand back up, also get through whatever combo piece or whatever spell you need to play that's going to allow you to get value. Overmaster is just one of those cards. I think that this card is really good, and for such a low price, it is a really cool card.
Yeah, for budget C EDH players, I think this could be a possible card that you might want to look at. A lot of times, C EDH decks run a little bit of interaction, but they are mostly very laser focused on pulling off their thing faster than anybody else can pull off their thing, and they carry a little bit of disruption and interaction so that they could possibly disrupt you from doing your thing. This is a kind of a meta call, I think, in a lot of cases. If you've got somebody in your pod or in your normal play group that runs a lot of counter, maybe pick up some of the cards that we're going to show you today. Overmaster's part of a cycle from Torment that was letting specific things get through uncountered. We're going to go over another one later in the video. But if you do have somebody who's always countering your stuff, Overmaster might be a good way to go. A lot of times EDH decks will build towards one big instant or one big sorcery that's supposedly going to win you the game if you've gotten all the pieces in order and you're ready to go. I know that I run a specific legendary land that keeps spells from being countered if I use the mana created by that land to cast the spell, specifically so that some big X spell doesn't get countered and I don't waste my entire turn, essentially. Like Jake said, it cantrips.
Dude, I mean, the blue CEDH package, it's jam-packed with stuff like Force of Will and Mana Drain.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just it is just robust with all of the same counter spells. All those blue players, if you're going to pick your counter package for EDH, you're going to see a lot of the same counter spells.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, Overmaster is a card that is notable. I mean, for 1 red, it's cantripping, and I mean, it's good.
Absolutely. Next up, we've got Radiate. It's an instant red 3. Choose target instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single permanent or player. For each other permanent or player that spell could target, put a copy of that spell onto the stack. Each copy targets a different one of those permanents and players. So right off the rip, I think of targeted removal. Somebody casts Vindicate on one of your creatures. Okay, fine. We're going to Radiate Vindicate, and Vindicate's now going to target literally every creature on the board. That is pretty awesome. I think another great example, I showed Jake, or I was telling Jake about when we were discussing the video, Radiate somebody's Torment of Hailfire. Radiate somebody's Exsanguinate. Somebody casts a bunch of X spell, just puts a ton of mana into it, fires it right at your face. Okay, well, in response...
And dude, you were talking about Vindicate. Vindicate would hit everything.
Oh, yeah,
Vindicate
it is permanence. Yeah.
So it would just... If you were to Radiate a Vindicate... Oh man, you would raise some eyebrows. On that
this was really the only card from this set. Like Jake said, it's a small set, and so it was more difficult to pull cards that we think do actually have viability. You know us, if we have 3 videos or 3 cards for a video that we find for one of these sleeper series, that's how many it's going to be. But this one in particular actually excited me because it's a cool thing. Red does this in a lot of different cards where it, like Wonder Woman bracers something away from itself or redirects spells and copies them and things like that. And Radiate is just another version of
will,
that.
Man. Force of Will is one of those cards. Dude, this is actually a really cool card. I'm very excited by this card. This is one of the things that I really like about this series is we're going through and we're digging through these sets and we're reading every card from the set to see if there's anything here that is worth noting. And this is a really cool card. I think it's great. I think it's the kind of card where if you time it correctly, you could just win the game with it.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah,
strong.
Somebody casts a Hughes Exsanguinate, you get to put a copy of Exsanguinate on the stack above it for each player that exists. Right.
Like, dude, it was designed during a time where they never thought about EDH. They were like, 5 mana, that you're closing out the game by 5 mana. But no, in EDH, 5 mana is just like, all right, we're getting into the pool. Let's start to splash around a little bit. It's like...
Yeah. Next up, we were talking about that cycle that doesn't let things get countered and also cantrips. Insist is another one of those. 1 green for a sorcery. Next creature spell you play this turn can't be countered by spells or abilities. Draw a card. I see Craterhoof Behemoth.
It's my favorite 3 words in the world.
Right, yeah, draw a card.
It's my favorite command sentence. It's my favorite. It's such a good sentence. Declare a card. Draw a card. Declare a card. Declare and draw a card.
I know that, a lot of creature decks, a lot of go wide decks will end with some kind of crazy overrun. Creature that comes in and gives everything a bunch of power, toughness, and trample and indestructible or whatever, And Insist is a way to make sure that at the very least that creature hits the board.
Yeah. Very cool.
Plus
very
it replaces itself.
There are some powerful creatures in EDH. You know that there are. Making sure that you can get through. I mean, green has a lot of can't be countered, but this is just a little bit of redundancy.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Nostalgic Dreams, 2 green. Sorcery here. Not a lot of enchantments today. Normally, we have a lot of enchantments in this series. We've got a sorcery. As an additional cost to play Nostalgic Dreams, discard X cards from your hand. Return X target cards from your graveyard to your hand. Remove Nostalgic Dreams from the game. Convert those late game lands into important permanents from your graveyard. Grab some removal. There's a lot going on here.
You kind of walk a line when you run cards like this in your deck. Things like Praetor's Council. Cards that you want to see after a grindy game on like turn 15 to 20. You don't want to see this card in the first 5 turns, most likely, unless you're really trying to like remove a specific combo piece from the graveyard back into your hand and just pitching whatever just because you want to run your combo one more time. That would be some use for it. But, I don't mind for 2 mana to return X cards only limited by, like you said, how many blanks you have in your hand that you're willing to part with.
Well, yeah, and you have to think about in like a graveyard recursion kind of thing. There might be stuff in your hand that you want in your yard, and then you can go back to the yard and grab utility stuff like, like Eternal Witness, or maybe just like a clutch Path to Exile when you need it. I mean, it is sorcery speed, and it is single use, so that's something to think about. Once you've used this card, it's out of the game, so when you do use it, it needs to be for an important purpose. That's the only drawback for me, and that's probably what has held this card's price point back for so long, is that there's no real way to do it over and over again. But pretty interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Plagiarize is up next. 1 blue, 3 other for an instant speed until end of turn if target player would draw a card. Instead, that player skips that draw and you draw a card. Oh, you're casting Pull from Tomorrow for 10, you say? In response, Plagiarize. I'll be drawing 10 cards. You now probably hate me and you have to sit over there and be super salty.
Yeah, or, a lot of the time we play EDH where, it's two-headed giant, 2v2, and, you could say, I'm about to draw a lot of cards, but
right.
They have Consecrated Sphinx out. And then it's like, okay, well, how about I cast Plagiarize on them, go ahead, draw your cards, and now all of the cards that they're going to draw off that Consecrated Sphinx, I'm going to draw them instead.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool, little team moves that can be made with this card. EDH is a format where people love to draw cards. The more and more I play Magic, the more and more I realize that draw a card, making sure that your hand is full, is one of the most important things that you could do in this game. Once your resources run out and your opponent is allowed to continue playing resources, that's how they get out of control. So you have to keep each other in check, and the way that you do that is by making sure that your hand stays full. So Plagiarize is one of those cards where you can set it up in such a way, an opponent's about to play Mind Spring or a Pull from Tomorrow like Joel was just talking about. Yeah, for 4 mana, that's a huge swing.
Right.
I mean, it's just, there's so much potential here.
Yeah, absolutely there is.
And Dawn of the Dead, here we go. 3 black, 2 other enchantment. We do have an enchantment. Here we go.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to play. That creature gains haste until end of turn. Remove it from the game at the end of the turn. If you build this into an EDH deck that has a ton of sacrifice effects, you just sacrifice whatever that big beater was right at the end. Okay, we reanimate Ulamog, Ulamog swings, sack Ulamog, end of turn, put it back in the graveyard, and, obviously this card folds to stuff like Torment's Crypt, Bajuka Bog, anything that's going to get rid of the graveyard, or a Relic of Progenitus, but we can't build decks around the fact that, if they remove my graveyard, I might as well not.
Sure, then no graveyard strategy is viable. I really do like this, and I think you hit it on the head with the Eldrazi thing. Obviously, you want to be returning big, splashy creatures, right, that have great ETBs. You want to reuse them. You want to be able to, that you don't want to just dump a big portion of your library into your graveyard for this card because you are only getting 1 a turn. This feels like redundancy in a deck that already does that. This is that would probably be a good place for Dawn of the Dead to land. But yeah, you want to have some ETB creatures, at least
Sun
one
Titan,
at the beginning of every turn.
Sun Titan into Eternal Witness, into whatever, just like
the demon that lets you search your library for any cards, any creature that comes into play and destroys target creature.
It's a really fun card. It's super duper cheap. It's probably because the creature gets removed from the game at the end of the turn, but
right.
If you have stuff like Witch's Oven or any sort of sacrifice effect, it's just just sack whatever that thing was that just swung and play it again next turn. And
I would say a downside to this is that you are losing the life at the beginning of your upkeep, regardless of if you return a creature or not. So if they do ace your graveyard, you're kind of up the creek. Obviously, I would prefer if it did say at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to play. If you do, you lose a life, that kind of thing. But it does suck the life
I just love
automatically.
Play Sun Titan, swing Sun Titan in the same turn, get back a 3 cost, and now you're swinging, get back another 3 or less.
Right.
It's just brutal, dude.
Yeah,
brutal.
Absolutely. We have another enchantment, Jake. Mortal Kombat. 2 black, 2 other. At the beginning of your upkeep, if 20 or more creature cards are in your graveyard, you win the game. We covered this in our You Win the Game cards tier list. Make sure to go check that video out. We discussed it in that video, and both of us sort of landed on the opinion that this card is pretty good and fairly achievable.
Yeah, I think about it in, again, like a dredge strategy. Like you're running Golgari Grave Troll, Stinkweed End, Life from the Loam. Pile them into the yard, dig for Mortal Kombat, get it back, play it, let's go.
Yeah,
maybe.
Right, yeah, you just gotta untap with it and you win kind of deal. I love trying to achieve any card that says you win the game. And the fact that this one's so cheap, it's only been reprinted once, and if I'm not wrong, it was a white border card. So this is the OG with the black border. and it's an achievable win con in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun card. That brings us back to Overmaster and to the top of the hour. Do they say to the top of the hour?
Fly away. We appreciate you watching, everybody. If you like the series, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. We will be covering every set eventually for this series. It's a long, ongoing series, and like Jake said, we do have to read through
with an asterisk for that. There's some that we will not cover, but if you watch all of them, you'll learn why we don't cover some of them.
Right, yeah, absolutely. If you want to support us further, we have a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. And if you want to hang out with us, we stream on Twitch and on YouTube. Hit that notification bell down there on YouTube so you know when we go live, and go find us over on Twitch. Jake and Joel are magic. Jake, I'm tapped out.
All right, I'm off to the top of the hour.